Welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington. And I am so excited for our guest today. I feel like my podcast actually might have just been made for Jane Powers. So we'll get into that in a minute, but I'm so excited to share our guest with you. So Jane Powers is one of a kind. If you don't know Jane, you're about to get to know her better, but entrepreneurs, sales managers, and small business owners hire Jane to learn to speak with confidence and sell with authority because most are boring, confusing, and leave money on the table. So Jane helps them connect, capture, and close their ideal audience. Using her straightforward, big-hearted style, Jane guides thousands to speak with confidence and sell with authority. With decades of successful speaking, training, and coaching, and perhaps most important of all, real-life experience founding and running multi-million-dollar businesses, Jane appreciates that success is truly about the power of your core message. With over 30 years of sales success as a corporate executive and entrepreneur, she brings you everything you need to ensure a competitive edge in the marketplace. Jane has been changing the way people sell and how to move people into action to make more money, have more fun, and most of all, make a difference. So if you don't know Jane, she is known for her endless energy. And I can say firsthand that if you've not been to one of her events, you're just not living, like you haven't lived. So welcome, Jane. I am so happy to have you here.
I sit and listen to that intro. I think, that's me.
Oh, I wrote that. Oh, that's really good.
I'm a brilliant writer. And what that means is either I'm just really old or really successful. So I don't even know, or both. It could be both. That's unfortunate.
No. I can say it's not the first one. Definitely not the first one. How are you, Jane?
I am, given the circumstances that we're under, I am doing well. And as you said, I live and die to be on stages. Mm-hmm. And now we've gone to virtual stages, which it's a much tamer environment. But at the same time, we're like caged animals, every one of us. So, right. For me, the greatest, I just did a live event last night, went and we were all doing our part for social distance, because Arizona, we're the wild, wild west. We opened up our state, yay. And I did the first event last night, and it was people were like, what is that woman on? I'm sure, because it had been how many months?
Right, you were let loose on the world.
Exactly. I got everything in that I needed to, that I've been holding out for about 3 months. And it was a really great opportunity, but it just reminded me of how much I miss that connection, and it's an ever-changing world. So, the work that I do is any platform. Well, I didn't realize it would become 80% virtual, 20% live, where before it was a nice flip where people would be out heart to heart, eyeball to eyeball, connecting, selling, speaking, doing whatever. So it's been a true difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge difference. I mean, I've noticed a couple things. Like when people virtually say like, oh, sending hugs or whatever, there's a part of me that I like, won't it be amazing to hug people again? Right? Like I have that reaction like, oh, like that's so exciting to think about actually being able to hug people in person. And then like the other night, I woke up being like, that was a super weird dream because it was so boring. My husband and I like went out to dinner to some regular restaurant. And that was my dream. That was the total of it. Like we got to go have dinner at a restaurant. Bizarre.
I can't believe you just shared that in public.
I know.
That crazy dream.
Just puts me in a whole new category of lame. I know. Well,
we live downtown Phoenix, and it's just a different world. We're just looking at a different world. But what I do understand is that if I hear the word pivot one more time.
It's pirouette. It's pirouette.
That is such a better word. I swear everybody's like, okay, we need to pivot. No, you don't. Nobody needs to pivot. Stop.
Well, right. And even the whole concept of pivoting, I mean, I kind of get it, and I have used the word as well, but No, I only did it for like 1 week, and it was before everybody else was talking about pivoting. So I
Right.
started it. I'll send you my newsletter that I sent out like, March 2, ahead of everybody else. Anyways, but we were on the early end of that here in Seattle. But business is one big, huge, long pivot. Like that's all you do in business is adjust to the marketplace and figure out how to do the next thing better and in a more effective way, right? Like this is the journey of business.
Yeah, and this one just, and it's so funny because I played basketball. Believe it or not, I'm very short, but I'm very mighty. And
You are mighty.
I had a basketball scholarship. People call me liars. I'm like, no, I swear to you, I did, and I have articles off the bench bomber. Because here's what I understood: in basketball, you pivot. I mean, that's
Actually pivot, right.
actually, and it's what they call a triple threat. And I would tell people, you get to pass, you get to shoot, you get to dribble. So you have three options. And then I give the bonus option, which is you can call a timeout. And I think more people need to call timeout than decide or just like throw up a bomb to hope they score. And I think that's what's happening in this marketplace. It's do what you do best, just do it differently. Like I see people out there, they're like, I am a pandemic expert. Were you born in 1843? Like, you can't be. Nobody's an expert. We're all digging ourselves out, being creative. And I like to say, what I do, I might be biased, but I'm going to say it anyhow. What I do is always relevant because people need to have their message and they need to know how to sell, whether it's through their message, which is always the door opener, and then they need to close deals.
That's right.
So for me to pivot, it would be just take that and do it better. There's no pivoting necessary. What I tell people is do what you do best, just do it differently now.
Totally.
Different mindset.
Yeah, the do it differently part. I mean, I think there's two sides of that conversation. There's the tactical do it differently, right? Like go online in a bigger way, those kinds of tactics. But I think the better part of the conversation is really about sustainability, about like how we improve, like we use this opportunity to improve business, not just for now, but for everything to come.
Yeah, because who would have seen this? I mean, I think we had 6 events scheduled, planned, ready and raring to go. We had a Costa Rica retreat. We had a sexy 2020. That thing, and it's funny because somebody sent me a message, ooh, 2020, it's going to be a 2020 vision. That's what we're working for. And I'm like, we have been blinded there is no 2020 vision. It's a vision, I guess, an introspection. Are we doing business in the most effective way? And here's the other thing, I love this, because I'm the most competitive person on the planet, almost. But, you're always chasing the one who's in front of you. Someone's always going to be better. Someone's always going to be worse than you. Like, that's just like, you're like, aha, I made it to the top. And you're like, oh my God, why are there 4 more peaks that I have to climb? But what I think this opportunity we have is if everyone can see it as we've all hit a level playing field. We're all in the same boat. We all are trying to figure it out. Not one of us is an expert in this arena. Not one of us. And so what I say is, look at it, put on your runners and start like taking a pace that is, like you're saying, is going to be sustainable. But we're at an even playing field.
Yeah.
We're at an even playing field. And, maybe other people have more resources, but please don't, I tell people, don't depend on somebody else to determine your success. Do what you do rather than trying to squeeze yourself into a box of someone's program that doesn't fit you. That's why I'm a master of customization.
Totally. Nope. I love that. I'm going to pause us for 1 second. I want to give an audio, like a 5-second pause. And I'm going to ask you, do you have a set of headphones?
I do.
Do you mind trying those, just putting them on? I think it'll help.
Echoey?
I think yeah, it's a little bit echoey. I should have thought about this before we started, but it's no biggie.
Okay. It's weird. I never have a problem. You like my little outfit?
Oh my gosh, you're so sporty. I like life goals for me. Like I'm really hoping to get more walks in around the block, right? That's
Oh,
where
you
I'm
know what I
at.
have done? I have gotten, because we bought the house, the mountain home up in,
Oh yeah. Have you been
so
able to spend time up there?
that's, and then
It's saving you.
we came home to get everything fixed up, but,
Yeah.
just maintenance and pool, and I'm
Yeah.
getting synthetic grass because I'm freaking,
We have a neighbor that just put that in, and it looks great. Like they
yeah,
totally redid their whole
it's,
front landscaping.
it's very expensive, but
Is
the
it?
amount of, I tell you, every other second I've got a geyser because the sprinkler head went,
Yeah.
nuts. But okay,
Totally.
is this a
Okay,
better sound?
awesome. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay,
I should have checked in at the beginning. So, okay. Well, one question I have for you is based on what we're experiencing right now, what are you doing differently?
truly, I am doing. I'm relaxing more. I was telling you before. I have to set an alarm to wake myself up at 8 a.m. That is different for me. I am usually out of bed 6 a.m. Workout, get to work, Joe, go, 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 go. And I'm telling you, what I discovered is that I was not embracing the joy in what I was doing. I know everybody said that, oh,
Yes.
this pandemic has been such a blessing. No, I'm sorry, it hasn't. I should have stopped sooner, evaluated the level of satisfaction I was getting from chasing the millions, and made
Yes.
the change before all this
Ugh.
happened. So for me, what I've done differently is I am more active online. I've always been online. It's just now we're doing a 3-day event online,
Yeah.
which is we're going to do a whole studio effect because anything less than that would make me absolutely nuts.
Yes.
We're doing a speaker boot camp, which is a great, we do speaker boot camp. So we train basically how to deliver your message from any platform and how you make money from it. Now we're doing it a virtual speaker boot camp, meaning, we were talking about this, how some people will have like the camera and they're looking up at the camera, or they've got like 4,000 people in the background, or, their hoarders buried alive. It looks like they're back. So what we're doing is I'm going to be coaching individuals on how to deliver your message, because the talk that I provide for people, what I do, the messaging is the same. Delivery is very different.
Yes.
Delivery online is very different. You got to get even more amped up, and the energy and the inflection of your
Yes.
voice.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I was sharing when I first started doing video and anything online, I had like these crazy eyes. I don't know what, I would be talking and all of a sudden my eyes would go and I
This
would watch the recordings.
This is me still trying to record on an iPhone. I'm like, where do I look? Where do I look? And like, I have a hard time like looking at myself, which I can say out loud. I don't like to be looking at myself in a video, and so I'm like doing anything to just look somewhere. I'm a crazy person. I can't even record like a 3-minute video without looking crazy.
That is so, my eyes were like, I'd be like, whoa, like where? I had crazy eyes. So as I started doing more video, I realized I need to focus. So do you know this is a great tip for anybody who's starting. And it's funny because I'm at Denise's computer. I told you our AC went out.
Yeah.
Yes, in Arizona, my AC went out.
You're all thank you. Another blessing during
Yes,
COVID,
for
right? And
me
one
to
more
in turn,
blessing.
yeah, reflect on my
Sweat
appreciation
is
for
so good for
AC.
our complexions. Isn't that the truth?
No. But what I do, and what I have, I'm at Denise's and I see two little pictures next to the lens because she has a hard time looking at the camera.
Yes.
So when I first started doing virtual years and years ago, I took pictures of my ideal clients. I put it right up there and I'm talking to them. So
But
just
you know
take
what? That is
picture,
so,
boom.
yes, that it's what
Because
I need to,
you're tempted to look, I look at you talking. And then
right?
when it's my turn, I look at the camera. But everybody should be used to that. But the best thing to do is put some photos up there and keep eye contact. And you'll see what happens. Like I have the Razor camera, and do you know you can't even get those? They're still back ordered right now. But
Well, I tried finding that other one that people recommended for years, and same thing, you can't get it.
Yeah, and right now everybody, because all the teachers, everybody. But
Everybody.
what I do, and I have to watch myself, I have to keep my hands, because when I talk with my hands, the razor is focusing like,
Oh.
stop moving.
I thought you were going to say the clinking and the, like I do, I'll have this on or something and then clonk, clonk, kink. I hit my funny bone on my new podcast mic, like the corner right here, and I almost died on camera the other day. I was like, I'm going to cuss, and it was so painful. So, yeah, all the things.
There are so many different things. I have a client who, when she was speaking, she banged her desk. She gets very excitable, and she banged her desk, and I'm like, no, you can't do that online, because it just, everything went. But it's funny because speaking of her, she does speaking in Germany. So everything is virtual, and I do speaking analysis. And I'm going to tell you, this is how important it is with the way you pause, the way you articulate. She did it all in German, sent me her talk, and I did a full analysis. I'm like, no, you can't be doing that here. I went through, she goes, you didn't understand a word of that. How did you know? And I'm telling you, the power of inflection, body language will change how much you can close on a virtual or live performance. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so powerful. I mean, it's the 8 bazillion things we don't think of, right? Because we're just not tuned into it. Yeah, and if you're
and most people are nervous.
totally like me, I can't even look at myself. I'm like, can I please look anywhere else? It's true. It's true. Well, I love that. So do you find that you're spending quite a bit of time walking people through that right now who are trying to learn how to show up online and speak in an impactful way?
Yeah, you know what I love is the clients that I work with, I write their talk, I set up their intromercial, I have everything for them. And they have known since day one, since I started this business, that the talk that I write can be delivered from a live stage, an interview performance, like if you're on a panel, or a webinar. It's the exact same talk. It's how you have to change your delivery. And here's the hard part. So, we have our coding system, our sales, our
Which
core
I love,
communication.
love,
It's
love.
so simple and so fun, but it's a coding system. So, and here's the truth. Here's my disclaimer, fine print. I have ripped off every single personality profiling system on the planet, put it in the science of Jane, and we are talking to an attorney right now, but I put it in the science of Jane and created a very simple, easy system that when you're talking to someone, you know exactly how to articulate what their language is. So when you're speaking online, you don't get to see the individuals unless you're on a Zoom call and you can see everybody's little faces.
But even that's a challenge when you're in presentation mode. I just went through this on a live event, and I had to set up 2 computers, one here with my slides, right? Because it was partly had some slides involved, but it's a very disconnected feeling not to be looking at all the faces in the same frame. And so over here, I had all the faces. I basically joined the Zoom meeting twice.
Yes.
But it's still really a challenge, and I did not want to be disconnected from people. And anyways, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. And for people that aren't experienced speakers or presenters or aren't as comfortable, what I do, and this has been since forever. You can get the webinar, you can get ever webinar, webinar jam, you can get webinar LMNOP, whatever they are, Zoom webinar. And I opted not to, because I didn't like having to have people raise their hand and I couldn't connect with them. So I got max exposure, how many people can be on the screen. And I'll tell you, with our coding system, I can go through and look at their Zoom images and to look at their background. It'll give me a clue of who they are and how to communicate to them. But that is a key. And I'm going to tell you, the trick to overcoming a feeling of disconnect is to check in with people, call on people, like really just engage with people. And a lot of people will not volunteer to talk. I'll be like, okay, who's got a question, want to share something? They're like, Like, get off your email. Say
Deer in
something.
the headlights. That's right.
Yes. And I'll volunteer tell people, I'm like, okay, I'm calling on you. If you aren't sharing with me, this is going to be a lonely call and I'm coming to get you. So we're looking at a new software that has a virtual conference platform, I guess it's called, where actually you go to conference tables. It's a very interesting system that we're looking to bring into our business and to start offering that out. But I'm hoping that it becomes, we'll see. I'm going to use it and see if it works, because it's really important for people to connect and feel very connected.
Well, you'll be the perfect tester of that platform. I mean, the thing that I noticed, I had presented at a live event right before COVID hit, and I made an offer from stage, and 30% of the room bought. But part of the reason that happened is because I could watch, and I could tell who was tuned in, who was interested, who was actually looking at the paperwork afterwards. And so even though, some percentage signed up immediately first day, it was a 3-day event, like almost 50% trickled in the next 2 days.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
So, but
yes.
It was because I could keep eyeballs on people and make sure that I said hello to them in the hallway and did other things. And you can't do that. I just got done with a live presentation on Zoom, right, with probably a couple hundred people, but I was still overall happy with how the presentation went, but that ability to really use visual cues to follow up on people, that is missing. It's hard. It's much harder in the online space. So I'm still trying to figure that part out.
Yeah, and a lot of that is based on how you tee up. And so my philosophy. Here's my philosophy. When you are on any platform. Now, remember, when I say speaking, it could be virtual, online, offline. It could be an interview system. Does not matter. What you want to start with is a wow factor. Something that is different, unexpected. I do mine. I stand on stage 7 seconds, look at my watch, look at the audience. I don't say a word. What that does to the audience is they're thinking, is she nervous? Did she forget her start? What's happening? And then I start with 7 seconds. 7 seconds, your mind has made 1,000 computations about me. And then I go into it. And it can be it could be a quote, a story, anything. So no matter what, when you are on a virtual, you must have a wow factor. You must have one statement that says you are no ordinary presenter. From there, you have to position yourself. So you've got to position yourself as the expert. I've created 3 multi-million-dollar businesses, a 7-figure coaching business with a handshake, a smile, and a talk. I know how to sell, speak, blah, blah, all this. And I go into positioning myself. Now you've got the audience saying, well, I haven't done that. I better listen. And then this is the key. And I know you do this, but this is the key. Position them. You must position your audience and poke the bruise. That's why my infomercial is, because most are boring, confusing, and inconsistent and leaving a ton of money on the table. People are like, oh crap, that's me. Like, oh my God. And she just called me boring. But she's so credible, I have to listen to her.
Right.
So then when you position yourself, positioning your offer is just an emphasis on how screwed they are. I mean, I will do talks about not even halfway through. I'll go, you know what? Here's the bottom line. You people, you're screwed. I swear to you, people will high five. They'll be like, oh my God, thank you for telling me I'm screwed.
Totally. I've seen that presentation, and you're right. And the way I love so much about the way that you teach, and the power of making even one small shift in the way that you show up, the way that you present, the way that you start with that, the hook where people are like, oh, this is not just an ordinary presentation like I've heard hundreds of other ones, know. So yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, your system is absolutely phenomenal for anybody looking to put some format and structure to their presentation that really works.
Yeah, and here's what the truth of the matter is: most people are educating. Most people are just really good teachers, and we have a speaker assessment. What's my I think it's speakerassessment.com. If anybody wants to grab it, speakerassessment.com. It'll tell you what kind of speaker you are. And what happens, most people are overloaders. Our lovely, dear, lovely friend Japheth said, holy God. I tell that man, cut that talk. not even in half. In half, we are still like full, like a buffet crammed. But he's a brilliant man and he's a brilliant sales dude. But most people, if they give too much information, here's two things that'll happen. One, the audience will be a deer in headlights. They'll be overwhelmed by too much information. The second thing, and you've all seen this, what they'll do is they'll go, oh, excellent, I'm going to give it a try.
I've got all I need.
Yes, and they have enough to be dangerous. Like they have just enough to fail. Then guess whose fault it is? Yours. They're like, oh, her system doesn't work. You nut, you tried it yourself. We're the experts. It's our system. You got to follow the key components. But that's a lot of times what happens when people are presenting. The other thing, I love this. My favorite thing is we play this game on boot camp is Stump Jane. So we have anybody give any topic to me, any subject like pickles, and I will bring it back to my business. So that's a lot of the training that I do. And it prepares people for, podcasts. Now we will see podcasts going through the roof. So be prepared how to effectively interview and sell.
Right.
Like you've heard me during this whole thing. What have I mentioned?
Right.
Boot camp, live event, how I work with people. I write their talks. I write your intro
infomercial.
I'll teach you how to sell. Like everything.
It's brilliant. I hope everybody who's listening is taking word for word notes on this presentation. And by the way, I will go upload it to otter.ai and provide a transcript because people need to observe what's happening. It's really, really true.
And it's very natural because the truth of the matter is if I were being slippery and salesy, I'd be like, oh, and so I have this case study I think you'd love to hear. And oh my God, if we, like all of us go, oh, don't you sell to me. But for me, what I understand, people, if you want to speak with confidence, sell with authority, you hire me. If you don't want that, then you don't. So I can say whatever I want. The people that know they need that support are saying, I'm in. The other ones, they're like, oh, that was fun. Or not.
Right.
But it truly is about giving enough information to say, I'm awesome, you're screwed, now here's what I have for you.
Do you notice, I'm just really quick, do you notice me over here because I'm learning how to podcast, like trying to laugh silently, like off to the side? I hope my podcast editor is listening and appreciating how I'm trying not to snort and like lick my chops or whatever I did in the last episodes.
And you know what I love? I think people just be so real. That's truly my success is based on, I'm just real.
Yes.
Like, there's no fancy, I get off stage and people are like, oh my God, you're the same on stage as off stage. And I'm like,
surprise, right?
My meds are working. Like, there's no difference of how, but the truth is, we've got to just be genuine and real because people see it, smell it, they will run from it. Yes. And quite frankly, when I do, as you know, when I do my offers in anything, I don't care if it's online or offline, webinar, live stage, in a sales conversation, I basically say, okay, excellent. So are we at a yes? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm at a yes. I'm like, no, seriously, anything that'll get in the way. And they're like, nope, I would love to hear what you have to offer. And I'm like, okay, because now is when I'm selling you. Like, I'm going to start selling you. Don't be offended. Just know I see in you what you need. I've got it. Let's move forward. And I have had people write me checks, hand me credit cards for a ton of money, and they are thanking me for selling them.
Yeah.
Like that's what everybody should be doing. I want to hug somebody when I give them a check for $100,000.
Right. And like overload you with compliments, right? I know.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I don't charge $100,000. That was the check.
I mean, but you could.
I could. Now I am.
For you, I will.
It's just Heather. I'm just charging Heather that. The rest of you, I got a special deal for you.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you this funny but horrible story that I heard yesterday because I was trying to refer one of my clients to another attorney. And I was talking with her first. I said, and unfortunately, she and her boyfriend are facing bankruptcy. They've actually got a tenancy, and oh my gosh, anybody in a landlord-tenant scenario right now that's commercial, like tough times.
Oh yeah.
So they said, well, we connected with one bankruptcy attorney, and he was a little bit skeevy. And I really, first of all, hate to pass along, one more story about a skeevy attorney. So I apologize in advance for that. But I was like, oh, what did he do? Well, he told us when we asked him what his rates were, he said, oh, you're in the North End? And they were like, yeah. Oh, my rates are this. And they were like, so do you have different rates for where people are based? And he totally said yes.
Oh.
And I was like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And I apparently, anyways, I was like, that is skeevy. Don't work with him, and let me find you another referral. But yes.
Yeah, that's called a sliding discriminatory scale.
Right. For you in the North End, I have this special rate, right? I was like,
Eee! I have done sales forever. And I recall and I'm telling you, I have been doing sales over 30 years. And I remember I was sitting in front of someone and I saw this woman and she had a big ring. She had all this and I'm thinking, I wonder what kind of car. And I'm thinking, oh, this is just money. My head just was like judging, like, oh, this is money. And then somebody who was more casual, I'd be like, any money? And they had more money than the one who had the big rock on. So it's like you cannot judge anyone by where they live or what they drive. You just
it's true. It's inappropriate, but it's true. And that's a really important point, though. How many times do people, especially when I think of the folks that I serve, coaches, consultants, online experts, speaker, author types, like their business models all look very similar, but I think they're often talking themselves out of a client because they're prejudging and saying, oh, they couldn't afford me or they don't. No, don't do that. Stop doing that. I bet you see that all day long.
Oh, all day long. Or they don't even want to talk about money. Just like, I don't think they'll buy my stuff. Well, here's the thing. It's a disservice to your audience or to your individual if you do not offer them a means by which they can solve their problem. If you're like, oh my God, I'm awesome. I'm so awesome. You're screwed. Okay, we got to go.
See you later.
It basically says, I don't really care about you.
Yeah.
But what you've really done is made a judgment. And I love this. I was just doing a video for our October event. And one of the lines in there in the live stream that I did said, and I say this over and over again, and I love this. This is a writer downer. This is like a pack your bag, I'm done moment. You will never overcome an objection you agree with. You will never overcome an objection you agree with. So if you're getting a bunch of people that are like, oh, I'm broke. I'm like, yeah, I know, because you're broke. Now you're like, oh, I don't want to really make them uncomfortable, but it's a projection of where you are. So be aware, if you are getting a ton of the same objections, the same, what I call them, excuses, they really are. People be like, well, I don't know, I can't afford it. Okay, is that the real reason or is it a really good reason? Because it sounds like it's a really good reason, but let's get to the bottom of it. And most people won't keep going into that. But that's when the coaching begins.
Yeah.
The coaching begins when you start talking about money. Because if someone is not willing to have a conversation about buying or not buying, then they are screwing up their own sales. I promise you.
Right.
If someone can't have a down and dirty conversation about here's what it looks like, here's what I'd love to see, here's how I overcome my own objection. If you can't do that, you will not do that with your own people.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Why? I mean, I think I know why people have such a hard time with the money conversation, but in your experience, what is the biggest roadblock for people when it comes to sales?
Biggest roadblock, well, there's a lot, but the biggest one is their sense of worth.
Yes.
Like, I don't, God, I haven't made $1 million. How can I coach someone who's made, prior to me making $1 million in this business, I was coaching 7-figure individuals. And I felt like the biggest shame, I'd be like, oh my God, they're going to find out that I am not, well, I just started. So, but I'll tell you, I would write their talk and they'd look at me and go, where have you been? And they're like, you just made me another $3 million. And I'm like, well, then your invoice because you're
needs to be adjusted.
We're adjusting it accordingly. But it's truly about worth and how they feel the value of themselves. And then sometimes when I tell people the easiest way to fix that, don't go out and get therapy. Don't go out and be like, I am worth it. You have to do that. But the easiest thing to do, take 2 bonuses, put them into your package, beef up the quality and just the value so that people are leaning in, that your own family will buy that package or you'll buy your own package. But a lot of times that's the problem. They're like, well, it's not really that great of a package. Well, then why the heck are you selling it?
Yes.
You shouldn't sell it.
That's right. No.
That's the number one thing is people are, and this is the other number one issue. They sell, and we have our core communication system, our coding system. They sell from their own personality trait. They sell from the default. So for example, core stands for Catalyst, Optimizer, Relator, Expert. So a catalyst is always fast moving. That'd be me. If I were to sell to an optimizer who loves details, systems, formulas, all the information laid out in front of them with a budget, if I were to default to my sales system being like, all right, let's get this going. I'm going to put you in a cannon. We're going to light it. We're going to shoot you out of it. It's going to happen yesterday, the day before. Now, are you ready? And they're like, I don't even know what it entails. So a lot of times people are selling from their default system and they are not speaking the language of the buyer. Now, what I'm not saying is remember the old, if someone does this, mirror them. That will show connection. And so I remember being like, you see people all the time. So then when I'd see people, I'd be like, they're like, oh my God, you know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm like, you know what I'm doing. But it's a genuine understanding. Like last night, I was the event that I actually got to go out in public and speak was an Hispanic group. And my wow factor was, I said, mucho gracias. Paquito. Okay, that's truly all I know. But it was like, that was enough of a wow factor. They were all like just going nuts. But what was interesting is each one of them, I had to communicate effectively in a genuine way that said, I care about who you are. So there's a lot of factors that go into the conversation. It's not pick up your script and I'm going to, okay, oh, you didn't answer as I wanted you because now I don't know where to fit you into my script.
Right.
And it's ineffective. But genuine, authentic connection of who the individual is that's one of our bigger issues around sales.
Well, I love that. I think a parallel for anybody that's like read, I think there's a book out there, The 4 Love Languages or something, right? It's a little bit like trying to love your spouse or your partner in your own love language, which totally is not being received in the way that you want it. Like not that it doesn't do any good, but it doesn't have the impact that you want. You're not really serving them, right? And so the importance of speaking somebody's language, I mean, it's huge. It's really huge. I remember sitting in your audience and going through the speed exercise of evaluating like 100, I think it was maybe 10 that we got to other people, but really, really valuable to force yourself through the paces of like, okay, who is this person? Do they seem to be an optimizer? Are they a relator? Are they an expert, right? And really trying to figure that out because it's time that is well spent for sure.
And here's the other beautiful thing about when I teach the system, obviously we have the scripts, we have the questions, we have everything. But what is so cool, and people miss this all the time. For example, going to the event last night, prior to it, I went on LinkedIn and I looked up the individuals that I knew were going to be there. And what I'm able to do just by looking at the words, looking at what they do, looking at how they dress, looking at, and Facebook will tell you everything. You look at who they are, then you go and you have them coded already. I just took on a VIP client and I didn't know him from Adam. I know, thank God. Okay, people, I can eat. And I went on to Facebook and I saw he was doing this crazy mountain biking. Well, immediately I go, okay, he's a catalyst.
That's right.
I know exactly who he is. And when I have the conversation, it shortcuts the conversation. I don't have to be like, oh, so yeah, family. Like we are right moving in. Now with a relator, you must say that. So family, animals, what do you love? And they're like, oh, I'm so glad you asked. Like it's a whole different world. So, but that's, the truth of the matter is if the better you know the individual, the greater the connection and the higher the conversion with the
Yes.
right clients.
Right. Well, and the thing I loved about your system is the kind of the high level highlights of each personality type, right? Or each of the four labels. Like you start to be able to more quickly spot them. It's not some really deep dive. Like you can do a pretty quick analysis and be at least relatively close, if not spot on. That's what
Yeah.
makes it so fun.
You can even, when you're pulling up into the parking lot, you can identify people by what vehicle they drive.
Right?
The gal last night, one of the gals grew up in a Maserati. I'm like, yep, got it. Always a
Totally.
catalyst.
Or like I remember a woman in the audience with like flowy clothing and
Yes.
like all of that. It was really fun to go through that. So we've talked about the personal self-worth interfering with people. We've talked about, what gets in the way of sales and the importance of speaking the other person's language. Any other major barriers that you see in the space of people that you serve? Like what else are people doing wrong that are some of the highlights?
How long do we have? I'm
Right, I know. A few
teasing.
more
No,
minutes. I just that
the
people
biggest
need to
thing,
hear this.
yeah, the biggest thing is, I say this in my infomercial, I make it very clear, people are boring, confusing, and inconsistent. Now,
Yes.
they might do fine. They might be fine. They have either a great product that I can name some extraordinarily boring speakers that are making, I mean, double digit in the millions. And I have sat through about half a day, and I'm like, oh my God, there was no sharp objects that I could just poke my eye out with. But if you have a great product, sometimes it's just, or a great reputation, whatever it is. But the biggest thing is when people become inconsistent, they try to cater to, I hope this audience is going to, I'll deliver a specific message to each audience. I deliver the same message with some adjustments, but the same message, the same foundational message to every audience, and it's delivered differently. But what happens is people keep trying to be a chameleon, as they used to say. They try to morph to the audience rather than, I walk into any room, I will own that room because I'm just that confident in what I do and what I have to say. And that's what people are not doing. They're mixing up their messages. They're not delivering an effective statement. Like my infomercial literally is 17.5 seconds. People get an infomercial, it's usually 30 seconds, and then we test it and whittle it down. Then it becomes 17.5 seconds.
I've been working on mine for like 2 years, just so we're
Excellent.
clear, right?
And
Still
she's an
not,
attorney.
still
We know
not
why.
17 seconds.
Yes, but the key about it, we know this about Heather, the brightest, most incredible woman on the planet. I would expect your infomercial to be accurate with exactness, because people, the work she does in the world it has to be accurate. We can almost hit the mark. With Heather, it has to hit the mark. That's just the bottom line. But what I have done, 17.5 seconds, I was at an event, Karen Miller-Weiss was there, and she just introduced herself, and I'm like, I got to talk to her. So I went over and I said, hi, I'm Jane Powers. Entrepreneurs hire me to speak with confidence and sell with authority, because most are boring, confusing, and inconsistent. So I help them connect, capture, and close their ideal audience. I would love to talk to you because number one, you're an entrepreneur. Number two, you need to speak with confidence and sell with authority. Here's my information. Let me have yours. And get her on the phone. That's 17.5 seconds plus the invitation, maybe 25 seconds. We get on the phone. 20 minutes later, she writes has a contract for $24,000.
I believe it.
20 minutes and 20 seconds. That's not a bad payday.
I mean, is it worth it? I know. Hard to tell.
I know. You got to get out of your sweatpants. But I mean, truly, I remember I just started this years and years ago, and I had met a number of people. Jay was one of them, and Jay's a good friend of both of ours. But James, I go, so what's your work in the world? This before, we even knew each other. And he told me, I go, oh, that is really lengthy. Like, okay, how about if I write you an infomercial? And Jay, he looked at me, he goes, my dear, you just made me six figures. And it's true that it makes a huge difference. So let me give a pointer to everyone. The elevator pitch is a thing of the past. Like, gone are the days of I help business owners, I help entrepreneurs. Sounds like you're a volunteer. If you learn anything from this podcast, I want you to say, entrepreneurs hire me, families hire me, moms hire me, kids, whomever hires you, it says you have a viable business. That thing will convert far greater than I help.
So different, so different. No, I love even that small distinction. So, Jane, I am just such a fan, and I really feel like we've only touched the tip of the iceberg with you. Like, you have this deep, very interesting story. I mean, your career is fascinating. What do you have to share with people, tying this in actually to the theme of the podcast? One of the things I really want people to take away, part of my reason for launching the podcast, Guts, Grit, and Great Business, is to help people remember business is a marathon, not a sprint, right? It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not a sprint. What do you have to say? Because I know you've got a phenomenal mindset and you have a really, really powerful story. What do you have to share with people around that piece of it, around endurance, around mindset? I'd love to know your thoughts.
So the most important thing, and I love that Heather says you have a nice mindset. I'm not sure. If you stepped inside this head of mine, you would be like, oh my, it'd be like George Jetson on the little treadmill. Get me off of here. Like, seriously, some days it's like a sit and spin. I'm not kidding you. Entrepreneurship is not an easy, if you want to grow and evolve, become an entrepreneur, because it will push and stretch you beyond recognition. But if you resist that, and you get focused on, I met Wayne Dyer many, many years ago. And I thought, Wayne, you are the most incredibly boring speaker. But he was a wonderful man. And now I'm addicted to him again because of his message. And he talks about, whatever you believe in, I don't even care. But he talks about ego is extracting God out. If we run our business without an understanding of the difference between what we desire and what we think we should be doing, we will fail miserably. I probably for the last 16 months have been running at 832,000 miles an hour. We have created millions of dollars, and quite frankly, I was doing it because I was competitive. I wanted to be one of the biggies out in the industry. I was doing it because of the outside effects. And what I found is I lost the inside effect. And I even had a scientific hand analysis, and I'm like, I'm going to be in the school of money. I promise you, I'm in the school of love.
Yeah.
I'm in the school of love. And what I found was I wasn't loving my life and taking advantage of it. I was going too fast. And I allowed my industry to hijack my agenda. So if anybody has any idea of where you want to go, please do not. Okay, this is a great analogy. I am a biker. I do mountain biking and road biking. But when I was doing a lot of road biking, do you know the draft lines? It's the line where you have all the bikers in a row. Do you know who the smartest person is in that draft line?
The very last person.
The very last person. Because the first one is working. Do you know, I have been in draft lines where we have been going up a slight incline, going 55 miles an hour, and I am not pedaling. 55 miles an hour, and I'm like this. And they're all working, pulling me along. So the smartest entrepreneur is in the back of the draft line. So find the best way. Do not get guru-itis and be like, oh my God, you're the answer. You have the magic bullet. You're everything I need. No, you are everything you need. And if you are allowing someone to hijack how you do business, how you engage in your business and your life, you will be absolutely miserable. I have watched some of the greats in this industry working with different coaches, striving striving to make $1 million. And once they hit that $1 million, you know what happened? They crashed and burned. They crashed, and a number of them were my friends. And I talked to them. One got cancer, one had a miscarriage, one gained 150 pounds, one had a nervous breakdown, and one had something else. And they said to me, it is not worth it. I will go a quarter of the pace, make 250,000, and be quite happy. So people don't understand. They're like, you don't have to sacrifice anything to be a millionaire. You might. I hate to say it. I had to, and I've done it 3 times. Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing I can tell people is don't let anybody hijack your agenda, hijack who you are and who you are striving to be. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, you're not charging enough, just add another 0. That makes 0 sense to me. It makes 0, and or charge what you're worth. Well, we don't know what we're worth. Nobody. It's charge the value that you bring. Yeah. And stay in your lane. Don't copycat. Don't try to be someone else, because you are uniquely you, and your work in the world is uniquely yours.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I mean, there's so much juicy stuff in there, but I think remembering, and I was talking with a friend about this the other day, how easy it is when we're going along in normal life for things to pile on, and we start to have like these tolerations and just this way of being that until like you're saying, you're finally, I don't know if you were forced to or just COVID gave you a new opportunity, like seeing what it feels like to relax, to not be just going like this machine, right? And I think it's really easy to forget that, especially if you're in an industry, if you're in a line of work that really pushes in one direction or for a really assimilated business model, because that's just how people do it to get to the top.
And I am ridiculously competitive. That is a curse. And I grew up in a complicated childhood. So we were always fighting our way to the top of the mountain, and it becomes your normal operating system.
Like a survival mechanism.
It is fight or flight, and I was in fight for most of my life, and realizing that I'm just fighting my own doubt and fear inside. And the work I do solely is based on find your voice and you find your power. In your power, you do anything. That's and in the absence of your voice, you have become hostage to someone else's agenda, someone else's vision for you, or someone else's doubt in you. We're not what happened to us. We're not what was told to us. We are who we decide to be. And that has been my mission my whole life, but even more now. Yeah.
I mean, you're living proof of that. Absolutely. Well, my goodness, I feel like we'll have to schedule a whole separate conversation about all the life stuff and the background story. But I'm so grateful that you're just a powerhouse, the help that you bring to people, the gift that you are to their clarity, to their messaging, to their ability to convert. I mean, it's just, there's no scale for it. So, and I'm going to remind people that if you want links, Jane has a couple gifts. She already mentioned one, but there's another one that I think is your intromercial template. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, intromercial script. So what's an intromercial? It's an elevator pitch on steroids. So basically, it's how do you articulate your message within 17.5 seconds so it sells. And what I've done is I have the entire script. All you need to do is fill in the blanks. And then I have a webinar that goes with it. Do not miss the webinar. I'll walk you through everything that you need. And I work with individuals on the webinar. So it's not live, I'm not on there, but we are doing a number of different events. So once you plug into what we've got to offer, we've got a intramercial training coming up, core training, live event, and a speaker boot camp. So I am lonely, people. I am lonely. So come.
Well, and I've been through this. Like I can personally attest to the fact that once you go through it once, you're like, oh my gosh, you look at what you had before and like you could have filled up a page with script, right? Trying to just introduce yourself and getting it down, like the clarity that comes with it, and observing Jane and being able to work with people on theirs. It's such a powerful experience to go through. So anybody listening should absolutely hop over. You can find the show notes, including Jane Jane's gifts at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Jane, I am just so happy to see you again. I know for podcast listeners, they don't get to see you, but I do. So happy to have you sharing your brilliance here with our listeners. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
You know what? Just stand in your power. Just stand in your power. Find your confidence. Don't let the world intimidate you or tell you that you are not enough to do what you're doing, because if not you, who?
That's right. Well, and you are the perfect person to help people resolve that. So if you're not standing in your power, you know who to connect with.
Exactly. You know, I admire and adore you beyond belief, Heather. You know, you're like my favorite person on the planet.
Oh my gosh, Jane, I don't know how I got so lucky, but I mean, I will pay you later for that comment.
That was our agreement, wasn't it?
Totally. Shh. Right.
Oh, we're still live.
I
Son of
know.
a nutcracker.
Sorry. Dang it. I'll have to edit that out. Thank you. So good to see you.
All right.
Talk soon.
Take care.